have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Miami Dolphins. Now, Atlanta, I don't know what the hell that was last week against Tennessee, but it was pitiful. The defense sucked and the offense sucked. The Dolphins lost to the Chicago Bears 13-20. Now, for Atlanta, man, like, how is this offense going to look in this game? And I know a lot of you guys are going to say it's the preseason, it's just one game, it's the first game, you can't really overreact. So I'm not overreacting. I just want to see, is this offense going to continue to struggle? Because if the offense continues to struggle, then that tells me one or two things. One, there's not a lot of depth there, and two, you have problems that need to be dramatically solved right away, because if one of your starters goes down, then you don't really have that great depth. And part of being able to be a good team in this day and age in the NFL is being able to have great depth, being able to have guys who can step up. I was really disappointed with how the wide receivers performed last week for Atlanta. The offensive line really let them down. The offensive line was bad against the run and the pass. Now, I'm not quite sure if they had their whole entire offensive line starting in that game, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, like, they didn't give any of the quarterbacks for Atlanta any time to throw the football. AJ McCarron and Felipe Franks, and the run blocking was abysmal. That they allowed 5 sacks and 2.9 yards per rush. So I was really disappointed with the Falcons offense, but I'm not going to beat them over the head about it. It was only the first preseason game, so hopefully they should be able to improve in this game. And it's not even hopefully, like, as a Falcons fan, you're saying in your head, okay, you better improve, you better have a better showing than what we saw last week. Like, the offensive line was terrible, man. And the quarterback play wasn't good neither. AJ McCarron and Felipe Franks don't look like valuable backup options. It looks like you might need to go ahead and, give me a phone call, give me a little ring. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be a great backup quarterback, anything like that, but I definitely feel like I can perform better than what AJ McCarron did and Felipe Franks did last week. But if those guys continue to struggle, then maybe you have to think about trading for a Gardner Minshew, who you could really use, because you don't really have a great backup quarterback situation right now, and you're only as good as your weakest link. So I think that, in this game, as a Falcons fan, if your backup quarterbacks continue to struggle, then you may need to think about looking at a possible trade if you are the front office and Atlanta. Now, the secondary still struggled. How will it improve against a really deep receiving core of Miami? Miami has a lot of depth and a lot of talent at wide receiver. So I think that this is going to be a really good test to see how far along that secondary is for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Richie Grant had like an up and down performance. He had some good plays, but he also had a couple of plays where, he kind of got outplayed for the ball, So I want to see how he performs. I think his preseason debut last week wasn't bad. I think it was solid, but, he definitely had some downs, but he also had a good amount of ups as well. So I want to see how he's going to look in this game. The Dolphins offensive line, they played okay against the Chicago Bears. You did have some guys who had some penalties there. You had some false starts. But in all honesty, I think the offensive line definitely looks a tad bit better this season, at least from last week against Chicago, than what it did last season. Now, Tua Tagovailoa was really impressive. He went 8 of 11 for 99 passing yards. He had a really good drive, but, it got derailed when he ended up throwing an interception. And, of course, Twitter only talked about that. But if you take the interception away from the equation, I think Tua looked really good. Like, I saw Tua that looked really confident. He didn't look shy. He wasn't afraid to, attack the field down deep. And that's something that I saw out of Tua last year. He looked kind of timid. He looked kind of scared. And not scared as the sense, he was just gunshot or anything like that, like he was Sam Darnold, like he was seeing ghosts. But I just saw a quarterback that was a little bit afraid to throw the football downfield. So I saw a more confident Tua in this game, and I'm hoping to see him continue to impress throughout preseason, because, he kind of struggled during OTAs. He's been pretty solid during training camp for the most part. he's had his ups and downs, but that's the part of the training camp grind. You're not going to have great days day in and day out. You're going to have some down performances. So I felt like Tua definitely needed to come out and have a really strong preseason showing. He also needs to do the same thing against a Falcons secondary right now that still doesn't really look all that improved to me. Now, Noah Igbenogany, remember him? He was drafted in the first round of last year's draft out of Auburn. He got a good amount of playing time as a rookie last year, but he pretty much struggled in the majority of games that he got significant amount of snaps. But he looked pretty solid last week against Chicago. Now, Chicago didn't really have any wide receivers to, write home about that we should be afraid of. But I think that it was really good to see Noah Igbenogany have a good game coming off a, let down of a rookie season. So the players I'm going to be watching for both of these two teams, for Atlanta, I'm going to be watching rookie safety Richie Grant. Like I said earlier, I felt like he had an okay game. He had some ups, he had some downs, he had some plays that he was really good. He also had some plays that he got beat that I felt like he could have been putting himself in a better situation. I'm also watching rookie halfback Javian Hawkins. Hopefully we see more of him in this game. We didn't really get to see what he could do because the offensive line wasn't really giving any running lanes to, for the running backs to work with. So for Javian Hawkins, I want to see what he does. Hopefully he can actually have some competent run blocking in this game, and we can actually see him have a fair chance to show what he can do, because a lot of Falcons fans were really high on him coming out of Louisville in the draft. Zaccheaus, I'm really high on Zaccheaus, okay, and I still want to see what he's going to do. Didn't really see him last week. The quarterbacks didn't really have any time to throw the football to the wide receivers or anything, so I want to see what he's going to do in this matchup. Felipe Franks. Felipe Franks had the longest play of the game for the Falcons when he had that big rush that went for a lot of yards, and he was their leading rusher, 76 rushing yards on 4 carries, but as a passer, he didn't really look all that polished. He was 2 of 9 for 16 yards passing. So for him, he has a opportunity to win that backup quarterback job right now, because I thought A.J. McCarron, being the seasoned veteran that he was, having, experience being a starting quarterback for a brief stretch there in Cincinnati when Andy Dalton was injured a couple of years ago, I thought A.J. McCarron will play a little bit better. So I think that it's definitely Felipe Franks' job to take if he has the opportunity to do so, because A.J. McCarron doesn't really look like, the clear-cut backup quarterback behind Matt Ryan that I thought he would. So I think that Felipe comes out and has a good game, and A.J. McCarron has another game that he struggles, then I think Felipe Franks definitely could end up becoming the backup quarterback. And before the preseason even started, I was looking at Felipe Franks as a guy that a lot of Falcons fans definitely can't overlook. He has a really strong arm. As we saw, he has a lot of athleticism. He has more athleticism than what A.J. McCarron had. So for Felipe Franks, I definitely think that this is a prime opportunity for him. If he's able to come out and have a really good game, he could end up, maybe being a front runner for that backup quarterback gig. Now for Miami, I was really impressed with wide receiver Lynn Bowden going into his second season in the NFL. Last year, he was he was swapped. He was traded to Miami, I believe, by the Raiders. It was really weird. And he had a really nice game. He had 4 catches for 47 receiving yards. And when you look at Lynn Bowden, he's like a do-it-all person. You can line him up in different, positions on the offense. He can play a little bit of quarterback in the Wildcat, running back as well, slot receiver, outside receiver. I was really impressed with how he performed last week. I want to see what linebacker Shaquem Griffin does. I forgot that they had signed Shaquem Griffin a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to be keeping my eyes out on him. I want to see how he does in coverage. He has pretty good speed. He has pretty good instincts to the ball. This is just all about, can he be coached up properly? He's definitely a linebacker that Brian Flores kind of likes. He has that good speed. He does have that coverage ability. He is able to do a little bit of different things. So he definitely fits what Brian Flores wants to do defensively. Salvin Ahmed was a running back for Miami that had a really nice showing last week. He had 6 carries for 40 rushing yards, 2 receptions, 31 receiving yards as well, and a touchdown. And I'm going to be looking at rookie safety Javon Holland. Javon Holland had a really nice game last week also. He had a couple of tackles. So those are going to be the players that I'm going to be watching this game for the Falcons and the Miami Dolphins. You guys let me know some players that you're going to be watching in this game also.